Chapter 10. I think we should end this conversation before one of us says something she regrets. Maryhart wandered into the staff lounge, hooves aching from the first half of a long shift spent running around more than usual. Her mood flagged at the thought of the other half she still had to complete. Why the hoo-ha did I decide to become a nurse again? The lounge was dotted with other ponies, most of whom had divided into pairs and little groups that glanced at her before turning back to their own conversations. Strange, she thought, how every pony thought cliques were just a high school thing. Adult life was supposed to be different, yet the same pettifoggery wormed its way into everything there, too. As a nurse, she was expected to mix with other nurses first, just like doctors mixed primarily with doctors, porters with porters, and cleaners with other cleaners. Darn stupid, if you ask me, Mary thought truculently. She sighed. Not that any pony ever does. On bad days, she wondered whether she was only valued for her ability to empty a bedpan. Today was shaping up to be a pretty ghastly day, though it hadn't made the full progression into bad. On her way into work, she had been hit by a runaway gurney, and her flank still hurt from the developing bruise. Added to that, her daughter had cried with nerves that morning over a presentation she had to give in front of class. Mary had stroked her mane and given the requisite words of comfort, but shaken her head when Glow begged to be allowed to stay home. Mary had faith that the nerves would subside and Glow would be fine in the end, but the thought that she could ultimately do nothing but hope for the best made Mary's stomach hurt. If she could have done the presentation for Glow, she would have. Anything to bring a smile back to her daughter's face. Yet what would that have taught her? That it was okay not to face your fears as long as Mommy was around? That you should run away from your problems or the tasks that scared you? That taking responsibility was something only other ponies did? Weighed down by her heavy thoughts, Mary flopped onto one of the threadbare couches lining the wall. The pony on the other end hid his face behind a newspaper. Mary frowned, vague recognition chiming in her brain. The chime became a knell as the face peeping out from behind the paper clicked into place. This was the stallion who had run after the gurney that had hit her. He disappeared back behind the newspaper when he saw her looking his way. For a moment, Mary considered just ignoring him, but then the headline of the newspaper caught her eye. She heaved herself up, walked the few paces between them, and sat back down next to him. Seems almost unbelievable, don't it? She said conversationally. The newspaper quivered. Huh? A brand new princess. Who'da thunk it? One pale yellow eye hovered into view. The stallion appeared to be considering giving up his protective shield. Well, I guess no pony? I sure didn't. Mary tapped at the front page headline with a hoof. Every news outlet was still dominated by news of the newest alicorn in Equestria. Of course, after 3 days and 3 versions, they were still running out of ways to retell how she had finished Star Swirl the Bearded's unfinished spell and landed in the middle of Ponyville Town Square in a burst of light. It was the kind of thing every pony who had witnessed it would tell their children someday. Where were you when Twilight Sparkle became an alicorn? So, in a burst of creativity, the media had converted their coverage into stories about the upcoming Summer Sun celebration and how both Princess Luna and Princess Twilight would fit into the proceedings. I didn't even know alicorns could be made. Just goes to show you, don't it? Mary chuckled, allowing her southern accent to turn her words into a lazy drawl. In her opinion, there was nothing more comforting to a nervous pony than a good drawl. It had worked on Glow this morning, at least enough to get her to go to the school gate. Show what? Said the stallion behind the newspaper. That life can always surprise you. Take me, for instance. This morning I was surprised by you and your driving technique. The stallion's cheeks flushed from beige to scarlet. I'm really sorry about that. And take right now, Mary went on. I'll bet you're worried I'm going to yell at you some more. I gotta admit, I wasn't exactly acting ladylike. Then again, I'd challenge any pony to act genteel with a sore butt and the contents of her purse scattered across the floor. So I'll bet you'll be surprised when I'm the one saying sorry for yelling at you when it was just a little old accident. That corridor's sloped, though no pony seems to realize it. I'll bet you took your hooves away for just a second and things kinda... She went in for the kill, a smile as honest as a brand new dawn. Ran away from you, is that right? That's right, the stallion said regretfully. I don't like using the elevator that broke anymore. I know it's dumb and it's all fixed now, but I've started using the one in the corridor instead. I didn't realize about the sloped floor. Usually there are 2 of us on each gurney, but I was on my own today. I was punching the button for the elevator. It really was just a second. But when I turned away, the gurney wasn't there. I ran after it as fast as I could, but I couldn't stop it before it got to the doors, and you were coming through, and I yelled, but I guess you didn't hear me, and... The newspaper descended. And then I panicked when you were yelling and ran away before the elevator door closed. I'm really sorry I hurt your... that I hurt you, the stallion apologized. I should have stayed to help you pick up your things. And I should have watched where I was going, Mary shrugged. How about we leave it there? That way you can stop taking the long route around the hospital when you see me. You must have walked extra 10 miles today. Deal? Deal. He nodded. His eyes ticked to the newspaper page he had been reading. Mary saw that it too was about Princess Twilight Sparkle and the brouhaha surrounding her ascension. A story about how the Summer Sun celebration was being held in Canterlot for the first time in over 100 years sat next to an editorial about royal nepotism. Mary read the words, "If other ponies had been given the same opportunities as the vaunted Twilight Sparkle, maybe there would be a lot more alicorns in Equestria," before averting her eyes. "It never fails," she sighed. "Something truly amazing happens, and all ponies can do is bellyache about how life ain't fair. Personally, I don't think I'd want to be in Twilight Sparkle's shoes right now, no matter how spangly they are." Huh? The stallion looked up at her. You wouldn't want to be a princess? Heck no, Mary said emphatically. She had learned a lot about fame in the last few months. The fame of a princess eclipsed every other type of celebrity. Once a pony gets into the public eye, the public done feels like they own him. I couldn't be dealing with feeling like I ought to answer to every pony else afore myself. She shook her head. I wonder whether Princess Twilight realizes what she done let herself in for yet. But she's a princess, the stallion protested, as if this was the answer to any argument she could possibly come up with. Yeah? Doesn't every pony want to be a prince or a princess? Do you? Sure. I'd love to be famous and have lots of money and a big house and glitzy clothes and have no privacy and have everyone judging you on how you spend your time and all that money. Mary's thoughts circled round on themselves like dirty water down a plug hole, dragging behind the memories of Vinyl Scratch and her ongoing battle with the media. The more Mary learned of celebrity life, the more she appreciated her own humble one. It wasn't modesty. She would have been happy for a little extra cash to cover bills and a few luxuries, but no amount of glitz or glamour was worth the heartache and headaches that seemed inherent to that kind of life. Maybe Mary wasn't any pony of note, but she was happy. That surely counted more than fame and fortune, right? I'd rather be my own pony, thank you very much. Oh. The stallion seemed taken aback by her vehemence. You work up in neurology, right? I do indeed, Mary replied. So, you see DJ Pone 3 a lot, right? And Sapphire Shores? I do indeed, Mary said again, though with a little less aplomb. She had gotten so used to referring to Vinyl by her real name, she had almost forgotten her stage one. Where was he going with this? I'm a huge fan of both of them, he started, grabbing a little. Could you tell DJ Pone 3 that I think she's real awesome and that I... A piercing whistle cut through the air. Both Mary and the stallion winced. Hey! Called a black stallion in a porter's uniform from the doorway. What the hell are you doing here? Your break ended 10 minutes ago. Ah, crud. The newspaper landed at Mary's hooves as the stallion she had been speaking to launched himself from his seat. I lost track of time. He hurried away, but paused in the doorway. Looking back, he said, Tell her I think she's awesome and brave, and I don't care what any pony says. She still rocks. That said, he galloped out. Mary picked up the newspaper to see whether it contained anything else worth reading. A thought occurred to her just as she turned the page. One that probably should have occurred to her when the Porter Stallion was still there. Just what the hoo-ha was his name, anyhow? Doc? Dr. Thorntree turned before entering his office, smile faltering a little. Oh, Vinyl. She scuffed a forehoof. Do you, is Willow still around? In Manhattan, I mean, not at the, 'cause it's a new shift for you and everything. Since, I just thought, did she go back to Silverdale yet? His mustache twitched. She couldn't tell whether that was a good or a bad sign. Yes, she's still in the city. Could I, Vinyl searched for the right words. His gaze was so penetrating, she half expected a laser to shoot out of his eyes and pin her brain to the wall behind her. She frowned. Sweet Celestia, her subconscious was gross. When the 1,000-yard stare didn't let up, she sighed at abandoned delicacy. Again. Look, Doc, I was really crappy to her, and I wanted to say sorry before she got home. Was it her imagination, or did his mustache twitch upwards this time? She won't be going home until the end of the week. I can ask her to come in this afternoon if you'd like. Oh! Vinyl had been expecting a phone number. Yeah, that'd be good. Crap on toast. Apologies were harder face-to-face. Then again, she had asked for this the moment she threw Willow's nice gesture back at her and then ran off like a coward. Time to face the heat or get out of the kitchen, or something. Dr. Thorntree nodded, apparently satisfied. Was there anything else? No, that's fine. Vinyl raised her eyes. Are you mad at me? Dr. Thorntree puffed out a breath. You mean, am I mad at you for making my daughter cry on her first trip to visit me in several years? Yeah. No, Vinyl, I'm not mad. He paused. Not anymore, at least. Which meant he had been. Oh, sorry. It's not me you need to say that to. He crossed the short distance between them and laid a hoof on her shoulder. But, if you're willing to apologize to Willow, we'll say no more about it. I know you're not a malicious pony, Vinyl, so I doubted you had intended to hurt her. Willow is just... He seemed to search for the right words. She's a sensitive soul. Some might even say, too sensitive. He frowned at some private thought or memory. Regardless, she was very complimentary of you over dinner. She was actually rather worried she had made you hate her with her sketch. Say what? Vinyl was aghast. Why would she think that? Willow's a great girl. I just flipped out on the sketch for... Well, it was a dumb reason. I never said I hated her. As I said, she is a sensitive soul. She does rather take things to heart, and when the choice comes to blaming herself or some pony else for something, she tends to blame herself. Another tiny frown. Vinyl wondered what he was remembering. How often had Willow blamed herself for something that wasn't her fault? The problem was mine, not hers. Ah, friggin' heck. Resolve galvanized Vinyl into saying firmly, Well, I'll fix that. Yes. Dr. Thorntree looked at her thoughtfully. Yes, I'm sure you will. You know, Vinyl, if I hadn't seen it for myself, I would barely recognize you as the pony I first met. Huh? You've changed. Well, duh. She bit her tongue against that horrible reply. Her subconscious was apparently a douche as well as gross. Ponies change, Doc. I'll bet you ain't the stallion you used to be either. No, I'm certainly not. He chuckled. He actually chuckled. Vinyl couldn't see what was funny, but she smiled nonetheless. Anything was better than that penetrating stare of his. Tension leached out of her as he dropped his hoof from her shoulder and turned to go into his office. Oh, Vinyl, he said as something had suddenly occurred to him. Have you spoken to Dr. Crabtree in the last few days? I'm supposed to talk to him today. Vinyl remembered the untidy, tawny stallion who had walked her through the legal and logistical issues surrounding Octavia's future care arrangements. She hadn't spoken to him in over a week, though she had been in touch with her lawyer. Things were moving along like a great conveyor belt that would eventually deposit both Tavi and herself in her newly renovated house. Good, good. I'd better be getting along now. Yeah, right. And, Doc? He looked over his shoulder at her. Yes? Thanks. For what? Getting mad at me when I hurt Willow. His expression registered surprise. You're thanking me for being angry at you? Well, yeah. Don't get me wrong. I didn't like it or anything. I'm not a friggin' masochist. It's just, it shows you care about her. And that's nice. For a dad to care about his kid like that. I mean, I'd have been stoked if my mom ever got mad at some pony for hurting me. Like, majorly. Majorly stoked, I mean, not majorly mad. You're a good dad, Doc. Aware that she was babbling, Vinyl turned and trotted away. So, yeah, see you around. She was eager to extract herself from the situation. She totally failed to see Dr. Thorntree smile as he closed the door. Vinyl stared into her mug. Hot chocolate was nice and all, but who actually brought it for anything other than a mountain of whipped cream on top? Once that was gone, the actual drink seemed like an anticlimax. Somewhere in the back of her brain, a tiny voice yelled rabidly about empty calories and fat content and how many sit-ups it took to work off a treat like this, but she took great pleasure in ignoring it. Some ponies drank alcohol for courage. She opted for fatty treats. If she could have found some place that sold cheese in a can, she would have been knocking that back like it was going out of style. Was it ever in style? She wondered. Probably not. Saph is all about being stylish, and I can't imagine her eating canned cheese. Or canned anything, really. Do they do peanut butter in a can? I bet she'll be all over that, stylish or not. Whoa! Hot liquid scalded the back of Vinyl's throat as some pony tapped her shoulder. She sputtered, sending a spray of chocolatey liquid over the table in front of her. Oh my gosh! Willow's distinct squeak preceded her wild dash and grab for serviettes from the dispenser on the counter. The pony at the cash register watched in surprise as she rushed back and forth across the tiny cafe floor, her panic apparently making her forget that she could take more than one serviette at once. I am so sorry! I didn't mean to scare you. Here, let me get that. Vinyl made a noise somewhere between a cough and a last gasp of a pony in the middle of the Saddle Arabian desert. She tried to wipe at her chin with the back of her hoof, but Willow dabbed at it first with a serviette, turning Vinyl's face up towards her like a mother wiping at a grubby foal. I'm so sorry, she kept saying. Oh my, oh no. Your lovely white coat is all covered in muck now. It's... fine, Vinyl wheezed. She drew deep breaths, trying to cool her burnt throat. Totally fine. Just excuse me a minute while I hack up a lung. Willow bit her bottom lip. Hang on a tick. She hurried back to the counter once more, returning a minute later with a bottle of water so cold it was already beaded with condensation. Here, sip this. Vinyl drank gratefully. When she could speak normally again, she said, Thanks, Willow. I really appreciate it. Why are you thanking me? I shouldn't have snuck up on you like that. Willow twisted her hooves up in the floaty scarf wrapped around her neck. It was blue today, providing a neat contrast to her gingery orange coat. Vinyl was no expert on fashion, hence she had deferred to stylists who knew better as she climbed the ladder of fame, but she was pretty sure blue and orange weren't supposed to go together. Maybe it was the whole bohemian thing, or maybe she knew even less than she had thought, but somehow on Willow it worked. You keep that up and you'll strangle yourself, Vinyl remarked. What? Oh, yes, right. Willow untangled her hooves. Vinyl gestured to the seat on the opposite side of the faux French table. For some reason, the hospital had decided to deck out the visitors' cafe like something that belonged on the streets of Prance, with Surlicue metal on all the tables and light fittings, and chairs painted white with lines of poetry inked on the back. Vinyl knew Willow's chair read, "Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all." The quote on her own chair was the reason she first sat here months ago, and had picked the same spot every time she used the cafe ever since. "If music be the food of love, play on." My dad said you wanted to speak to me," Willow said hesitantly. Vinyl took a deep breath. "Yeah, I wanted to say sorry, Willow. You did a nice thing for me, and I was an ass," she said bluntly. Willow's eyes settled on a spot over Vinyl's shoulder. For one blinding moment, Vinyl panicked that one of the cafe's workers actually was an ass. She knew one of Bruiser's security guards was a mule, and a trio of elderly nanny goats staffed the gift shop, so there might well be an ass working here too. Some beast she had just insulted in earshot. Vinyl glanced over her shoulder. However, behind the counter was only a very curious-looking stallion wearing the name tag, "Hi, my name is Starshower. How can I help you?" Vinyl looked back at Willow, whose gaze was still fixed on some point in the middle distance. "It's all right," she murmured. "Really, it's fine. It was just a silly sketch." "No, it wasn't." Vinyl tapped the tabletop, punctuating her words with a hollow tink. Suddenly lost for how to phrase her thoughts correctly, she stumbled. "It was really good. It was a good sketch. Look, Willow, the point isn't the sketch. Well, it kind of is, but at the same time it kind of isn't. Pony feathers. This isn't coming out at all how I planned." "How did you plan it?" Willow asked softly. Vinyl shrugged. "I just wanted to say sorry for making you cry. Granted, I don't know you all that well, but you seem like an okay pony. Well, a nice pony, actually. Definitely not the kind of pony who deserves some inconsiderate idiot making her cry when she was just trying to do something nice." Willow's gaze flickered to Vinyl's face for half a second, but just as quickly snapped away again. "Don't be too sorry. I'm a bit of a crybaby. My mother is always telling me I need to toughen up, but somehow I still always end up blubbering."
Well, I'm still sorry."
"Apology accepted." Vinyl sat there for a moment, wondering what to do next. Somehow she had expected more from this conversation. Another case of whipped cream and hot chocolate.
But not as sweet,
she thought, searching her brain for something to say.
Can I buy you a drink?"
"Excuse me?" Vinyl's mouth twisted into a wry smile.
"Yeah, that did sound a little weird. I meant a hot chocolate. Or something. To make amends?"
"Vinyl, I can't help thinking you're making more out of this than it warrants. I drew a picture of you to pass the time and calm myself down while we were trapped in a lift. You didn't like it, and I did my usual trick of being a weepy-woo. It's no big deal, really."
"A weepy-woo?"
"Yes, you know, like the sound you make when you cry. Woo, woo, woo." Willow paused. "Or that just might be me."
"When I cry, it's more..."
Vinyl did a fair impression of emptying a nose in a flurry of mucus and goo. Willow pulled a face, but her mouth beneath her hoof was curled into a tiny smile. "That's rather disgusting."
"But truthful."
"Indeed." Vinyl smiled. Willow's Trottingham accent was nice to listen to. It had a lilting quality she could appreciate.
"So, how about that hot chocolate? They make it real nice here. I think it's to give ponies who come here something to think about other than, the reason they're at the hospital."
"Well, if you recommend it."
"I would. Here, try some of mine. If you like it, I'll get you one of your own."
"Well, all right then." Willow accepted the mug, shoved towards her, and delicately sipped at the contents. When she raised her face, she was smacking her lips appreciatively. "It is good. Oh, I think I will have one.
Wait here.
Vinyl rose and went back to the counter. Hi, my name is Starshower. How can I help you? Beamed at her as he mixed the 2 mugs she asked for. His eyes kept returning to her face as she spooned cocoa powder, vigorously shook the whipped cream, and seemed to take great delight in making art from their drinks. He even went so far as to place a cherry on each cream mound, though he hadn't when Vinyl purchased her solo mug earlier. She thanked him and returned to her table.
Bon appetit.
Phrase thoroughly mangled by her attempts to pronounce it, she slid into her chair, downing the lukewarm remains of her old mug before warming her hooves on the new one.
That's how they talk in France, right?
I don't know. I failed French at school. Willow wrapped her hooves around her mug and drew it towards her. And mathematics. And science. And PE, actually. I never was one for running around and getting sweaty when I didn't need to. I preferred art. Well, that's obvious, I suppose. I was a school journalist, too, though I never did anything like the full free press. Did you see that in the news last spring? The little school newspaper that was all full of national secret-level gossip and kept scooping the actual national papers?
Yeah, I saw it.
Indigo had nearly had an apoplexy that something had been printed about her. If those young ponies could take pictures of Princess Celestia covered in cake, no celebrity was safe. Thankfully, it had all blown over relatively quickly, and Vinyl had come out unscathed, unlike the princess, who now got at least one cake-based question whenever she did public appearances.
It turned out to be 3 fillies who had an in with the princess's protégé.
Do you think she was giving them their information? Willow asked. Vinyl tapped her chin, but eventually shook her head.
I don't think so. She didn't seem the type.
You've met her? Willow boggled. Princess Twilight Sparkle? Vinyl fought the urge to sigh.
Well, she wasn't a princess back then. I worked 2 gigs at events she happened to be at. The royal wedding and a fashion show.
She shrugged.
I didn't even realize who she was the first time I saw her.
All dolled up in stars and spangles that made her look like an explosion in a glitter factory. If some pony had told Vinyl back then that the purple pony in Beelzebubs would someday be an alicorn princess, she would have laughed in their face. Heck, if some pony had told her that 2 weeks ago, she would have laughed. Of course, that was before Twilight Sparkle, personal student of Princess Celestia, became Princess Twilight Sparkle, newly minted sovereign. The press had been full of her ascension, for which Vinyl was grateful. The more they focused on some pony else, the less they were likely to rake a recently outed musician over the coals some more. She felt a pang of guilt for wishing the media hounds in Twilight's direction, but it was nice not to wonder what fresh sludge she would read about herself every morning. What was she like? Vinyl was startled out of her thought by Willow's question. Twilight Sparkle.
Oh, okay, I guess. We didn't really talk much except when she was rehearsing her song for the reception. And I guess at the reception itself, but I was working then, so it wasn't really easy to have a conversation with any pony over the beats I was laying down.
And hadn't that whole song been a last-minute thing? Vinyl had been about ready to burst with anger at constantly being told no when she asked for the groom's sister to come and practice it. In the days prior to the wedding, Vinyl had thought her a stuck-up mare who thought herself too good to practice the first friggin' number her brother and his bride were supposed to dance to. Twilight had never attended a single rehearsal, and the one time Vinyl had cornered her, she had mumbled something about being busy and galloped away without a second glance. Only after all the excitement was over and the real wedding took place did she learn that Twilight had been thinking about much bigger things than whether she could telekinetically catch a microphone on cue. Vinyl Scratch?
That's my name, don't wear it. Oh, it's you, Miss Sparkle.
Just Twilight will do. I know you're very busy getting set up and everything, but I just wanted to come and apologize before the ceremony starts.
Apologize? What the what for?
You tried to speak with me yesterday, and I was incredibly rude to you.
Considering what you did for Equestria today, I think you're covered in the it's okay department. If it weren't for you, I might have a changeling sucking out my soul right now.
Love.
Huh?
They feed on love, not souls. Changelings, that is. They consume love the way we consume food and drink.
No kidding?
No kidding.
Wow. No wonder they crashed this love fest then. What better place than a wedding to find ponies getting all lovey-dovey gushy-mushy, right? So, I guess I should give you extra credit. It must have been extra friggin' hard to beat them if they were all running on high power.
To be honest, I'm glad everyone is okay. I'd like nothing better than for everything to go back to normal. That's why I came to see you. You wanted me to practice my song for the reception.
Well, yeah, it'd be good if we could work out a few timings and things. That pink bridesmaid, the one with the really poofy mane and tail, carrying the tray full of cupcakes on her head while dancing.
That would be Pinkie Pie.
Yeah, her. She was saying something about announcing your cue from behind my turntables.
Yeah, she told me. Would you mind?
Well, I don't usually let ponies other than me at my decks during a show, but I guess I could make an exception for the royal wedding.
That's very generous of you.
Whatever, it's fine. With all the love in the air, who am I to be a lead balloon?
That's rather poetic.
You think so?
I do. Would you have time to practice my cue now?
Yeah, sure. Come on, it's this way. I'm not going to the main ceremony, so I can totally spare the time.
Oh, would you like to go? I'm sure we could squeeze you in. It's standing room only, but if you'd like to.
Nah, I'm cool. That whole scene ain't my style. I was pretty surprised that your party planner picked me as the entertainment, to be honest. Weddings aren't usually my thing. I'm more nightlife than high life, if you know what I mean. I do functions too, but this is my first wedding.
Have we met before?
Sorta. I played a fashion show in Ponyville once.
Oh no! That was you? I'm so sorry.
What the heck are you sorry for? It wasn't your fault the designers' dresses sucked.
Actually, it was, but that's a long story. The designer is a friend of mine. She's one of the other bridesmaids, actually. In fact, she designed all of our dresses. Although, considering it was Queen Chrysalis who ordered them all changed, I wonder whether we're going to use the old or the new ones. I'll have to ask Cadence what she wants us to do.
It's her special day, after all.
Yeah, it is.
Hey, don't look so glum. You won, remember? You rescued the damsel and the hero, kicked butt and completely saved the day. Every pony's safe and sound because of what you did. If anyone should be feeling the love right now, it's you.
Yes, I suppose you're right. I guess I'm just nervous about, well, everything. The ceremony and the reception and the decorations and the entertainment and the carriage and whether or not I'll fall over my skirt because I never practiced walking in it, or having a coughing fit during the vows, or missing my cue and messing up the song, or failing to catch the microphone and knocking myself up and ruin...
Whoa, hey, breathe.
Sorry.
Don't you have, like, an assistant to help you with all this wedding junk? I mean, wedding paraphy stuff.
Yes, I do, but never mind.
Junk?
I take it you're not very romantic.
Not so much. Romance kinda leaves me cold these days. Not that I ain't stoked to be performing here tonight. Don't get me wrong, because I am. Stoked, I mean, not wrong. Can I get a do-over on this part of the conversation?
I think I'd like a do-over on this whole week. I know I was right about Cadence and Chrysalis in the end, but I did some stuff I'm not proud of. Not even after I was proven right. I got so caught up in what I was doing, I stopped thinking about how I was affecting others. I kept telling myself I was just worried about my brother and my friends, but it wasn't just that. I knew something was wrong, and it bothered me that no pony took me seriously. I needed to be right. In the end, I put my own need to be right above the feelings of the ponies I cared most about, and for a while I thought they'd abandoned me. I thought they hated me, or at least thought less of me for what I'd done, whatever my intentions had been.
Miss Twilight, are you sure I'm the pony you should be saying all this stuff to? 'Cause I'm pretty sure if you toss a cupcake in the air and say her name 3 times, Pinkie Pie will appear in a puff of smoke.
Hmm? Oh, I'm sorry. I was just thinking out loud, I guess. This has been a very strange few days.
You're telling me. Come for the wedding, stay for the near apocalypse. I gotta say, though, whatever disagreements you and your friends had, I saw you fighting those changelings. Talk about kick-ass. You guys were awesome.
Thanks.
They can't have hated you if they were willing to put themselves on the line like that.
I guess not. I'm just being silly. I love my friends, and they love me. It's just a little hard to remember that when you're sitting in a crystal cavern watching a bug queen laugh about how she's turned all of them against you.
Well, that changeling is halfway to Griffonia by now, and you're still here. So are your friends, and your brother, and your soon-to-be sister-in-law, and the princesses, and what seems like half of Equestria, actually.
Goodness, when you put it like that, I'm getting jitters. And it isn't even my wedding.
So let's make it the best friggin' wedding we can, yeah?
I guess.
Nuh-uh. No pony will be able to hear you even with a microphone if you sound all weak and wimpy voiced. It'll be you and your song versus several hundred party guests who nearly got smushed by bugs today. They'll be talking real loud, so you gotta be louder. Say it with me, okay? Yeah!
Yeah.
Again! Yeah!
Yeah!
Again! Louder!
You remind me of a friend of mine.
Yeah! Then she must be a pretty awesome pony. Now do it louder. Don't worry about ponies looking. They're just jealous of our awesome lung power. Again! Yeah! 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 Yeah!
Vinyl contemplated her memories.
She was normal,
she said eventually. Yes, that summed up Twilight Sparkle. Probably the most powerful pony in Equestria after the princesses, able to cast magic even the fabled Star Swirl the Bearded hadn't mastered. But if you talked to her, you'd think she was just any other nervous pony trying to do her best and find her place in the world. Oh. Willow seemed disappointed in the summation. Her horn glowed as she levitated something from the top of her hot chocolate. Would you like my cherry? Vinyl snorted whipped cream up her nose. It took a few seconds for Willow to realize why. When she did, her whole face flushed crimson. Her telekinesis died and the cherry landed on the table, smearing cream in a half circle. Willow covered her mouth with both forehooves. "Oh, my goodness!" she exclaimed, voice muffled. I wouldn't. I've never... And in public. I didn't mean to... Oh, my goodness." Vinyl choked for the second time that day, waving her hooves around wildly. This time, however, she was not choking in shock, but on laughter.
You just asked me...
Another snigger rippled through her throat. It wasn't even all that funny, but after the tension of anticipating this meeting, her emotions were in high gear. She laughed until her sides were sore and her cheeks hurt. When she could talk again, she wheezed,
Sorry, Willow. It's been a weird couple of days."
Willow hid her whole face behind her hooves. "I can't believe I just asked you that," she groaned. "What in Celestia's name must you think of me?"
"That you're damn funny and cute when you blush,"
supplied Vinyl's back brain, but she shelved that one before it reached her mouth, sensing it would not help Willow's embarrassment.
"I think you should laugh about it."
"Why would I do that? I'm so embarrassed."
"That's exactly why. Laughing makes you feel less of an idiot when you do something funny."
She chuckled again at the question.
"Would you like my cherry? Classic."
A tiny muffled giggle made Vinyl's ear twitch. "I really cannot believe I said that." Willow's eyes appeared over the tops of her hooves. She giggled again. It was high and fluty.
"There you go," Vinyl smiled. "You should laugh more. It's nice." "You should laugh more. It's nice."
"Yes."
"Huh?"
"Yes, I'll meet with you. Just give me a chance to think about where we can go. But yes, my answer is yes, Vinyl."
"Friggin' A!"
Vinyl sat bolt upright. All laughter died in her throat, which seemed to close like as if anaphylactic shock. She suddenly found it very difficult to breathe. Shocked, Willow leaned towards her. "Vinyl? Are you all right?"
Yeah, I'm fine.
Vinyl pushed her mane from her eyes. Something cold prickled up her spine. She turned around, but there was no pony behind her, save the stallion at the counter. Turning back to Willow, she shoved tufts of mane from her eyes again, irritated at it for getting in her way. Some of the tips were coated in cream, where they had draped too close to her mug. She didn't want the hot chocolate anymore. Just looking at it made her feel nauseous. Was this what unfaithfulness felt like? Don't be dumb, she berated herself. There were 1,000,001 reasons why that was a stupid thought. So, why did she feel like she had just been caught cheating?
Vinyl? I have to go.
Vinyl stood, her hot chocolate abandoned.
Thanks for accepting my apology, Willow. I'm sorry, but I just remembered I have to be someplace else.
She backed away from the table.
Thanks again. I'll see you around, okay?
Only through supreme self-will did she walk through the door of the cafe instead of run. Thankfully, Willow stayed at the table, confusion written across her face as Vinyl beat a hasty retreat. A hoof laid itself over Vinyl's. She looked up, irritation flaring inside her, until she realized who it was.
Saph? What are you doing here? You're not meant to be here until 4.
It is 4, girl. Sapphire's voice was a mix of her usual high energy and concern.
I've been standing in that doorway for almost 5 whole minutes now. It ain't every day Sapphire Shores gets ignored, sugar. I gotta say, I ain't used to it, and I ain't fond of it. Oh, sorry, Saph. You were so focused on that little bit of paper there, it was like there weren't no pony else in the room.
Sapphire leaned in to look at the sheet upside down.
What was it? Your song? Yeah.
4 o'clock already. Vinyl was shocked. Sapphire gave her a reproving look.
Honey, how often do you work on that thing? My composition?
Vinyl pondered the question.
Every day, I guess. How many hours a day? I don't know.
A defensive note crept into her voice.
Why? Every time I've been here this week, you've had your nose so close to the paper you practically got treble clefs for eyes.
Sapphire's voice dropped to a lower pitch. In a song, it would have been sultry, but right now it sounded anxious.
You're doing it again. Doing what again?
Getting obsessive. The pale blue telekinesis moving the pencil froze. Vinyl looked up at Sapphire, mouth open.
Say what? I know it ain't the same stuff as the other stuff you told me about, but still, it ain't healthy. Remember what you said I should do if I caught you going, as you so eloquently put it, all friggin' crazy over one thing again?
Vinyl's mouth worked for a moment.
That you should tell me,
she said at last. She looked down at the paper, recalling that particular conversation, one of the many she and Sapphire had shared. There were still things lurking in Vinyl's past that no pony but herself and Octavia knew about, but Sapphire had somehow managed to prise loose a few nuts and bolts until Vinyl's mouth was flapping like an unfastened barn door in a storm, spilling secrets and confessions she had never thought she would be able to share with any pony. How the heck did Sapphire do that? She wasn't a unicorn, so it wasn't magic.
Vinyl, honey? Yoo-hoo!
Sapphire waved a hoof in front of her nose.
You in there?
Vinyl started. If she had been in her chair, the legs would have screeched. Since she was crouched in the corner of the room, all she could do was arch backwards into the wall.
What?
Sapphire looked around theatrically at the rest of the room, then folded her forelegs.
Why are you sitting in the corner like a naughty fool? I don't know.
Vinyl shrugged a little truculently.
I just wanted to sit in the corner while I worked.
The look she received was entirely skeptical. It made her feel strangely embarrassed. When she looked away, Sapphire loosed a breath that could have uprooted a few trees, turned around, and sat beside her. She wiggled until she was comfortable, shoving Vinyl over a few inches. Part of Sapphire's bright blue tail ended up across Vinyl's lap, draped over the sheet music, but Vinyl didn't try to flick it away.
Okay, what's up? The ceiling. Don't you sass me, girl. Something's got you rattled. Nothing's got me rattled. Duck! What?
Vinyl looked up.
Oh, the low-flying pigs'll hit you, Sapphire deadpanned. No sass, no sauce, and no lies, girl. What happened to you since I saw you last? Yesterday you were O-K-A-Y.
Vinyl gave her a sidelong look.
Isn't that just spelled okay? What did I say about no sass?
Sapphire adopted an expression of hurt dignity, thrusting her nose in the air and pursing her lips.
You can't spell sass without ass, and you're real close to being one of those right now.
Vinyl shook her head.
It's dumb. Ah, now we're getting somewhere.
Sapphire's nose lowered, though her lips remained pursed.
Dumb is relative, Sugar Lips. When I was a filly, I failed pretty much every class in school except math and music. I thought I was dumb as a bag of hair, but no pony else thought so when they wanted to copy my homework for every class except those two.
Are you a dropout, Saph? Vinyl playfully reproached.
You kiddin'?
Sapphire's pitch climbed a few notches.
My mama would have kicked my sorry flank from here to Timbuktu and back again if I even ever thought about dropping out of school.
Her voice lowered, as if she were afraid some pony might hear.
I swear, that mare can read thoughts. I never got a report card past the door that she didn't already know about.
She gave an exaggerated shiver.
She could pry out secrets you didn't want to tell like warm honey from a jar.
Maybe that's where you get it from, Vinyl thought.
So what's so dumb it's got you sitting in the corner like a naughty foal?
Sapphire insisted. Vinyl winced. I talked to Willow.
Oh, pony feathers. Vinyl, did you make her cry again?
No, Vinyl protested, though the hesitation in her voice did not go unnoticed.
Did she make you cry?
No, you know me, I never cry. Well, almost never. We just had hot chocolate together at the visitors' cafe. I wanted to apologize for the whole debacle with the sketch she gave me. Sapphire nodded.
Debacle? Good word.
Saph!
So, what happened? Didn't she accept your apology?
Yeah, she accepted it.
Vinyl drew her hind legs up, encircling them with her forelegs. The sheet of composition floated to the floor, telekinesis evaporating when it touched down.
We got talking. It was nice.
She refused to look at Sapphire, suspecting that just the admission would be ringing the same alarm bells in her head as it had in Vinyl's own.
Oh,
Sapphire said, confirming the suspicion.
Like just nice, or like nice?
What's the difference?
You and me, we get along just nice.
Then I think it was a little more than just nice.
Vinyl buried her face.
I'm an awful pony.
No, you ain't.
Yes, I am, Saph. I was having fun. It felt normal. Talking with Willow, just chatting about random stuff, no pressure, no designs, none of that crap. It felt like...
She pressed her face so hard against her legs that her nose started to hurt and her voice came out muffled.
It felt like it used to with Tavi, before everything went wrong.
Oh, honey. Sapphire seemed to stop herself from saying something. She sucked in a breath.
Maybe it's better this is coming up now instead of later. Maybe you want to think about it before you're on your own with your Tavi in that big old house of yours.
Think about what?
Well,
Sapphire appeared to be choosing her words very carefully.
Vinyl, you and I both know there's a chance your Tavi ain't never coming back. There's a strong possibility she won't never wake up. And do you plan on being alone for the rest of your life just because you can't have her back?
I'm an awful pony.
Vinyl,
I'm awful because I don't know, Saph. I don't know if I was enjoying myself today because Willow reminded me so much of Tavi, or because I actually did, because I could actually...
She shook her head, mane draped over her face, obscuring what little was visible.
I don't want to feel that way for any pony else. I was on my own for 4 years. I never wanted any pony in all that time. And it wasn't like I didn't get offers, you know. I couldn't acknowledge half of them for pretty obvious reasons, but even if I had come out years ago, I wouldn't have wanted any other mares who threw themselves at me.
And I mean they literally threw themselves at me.
I hear that, Sapphire said sagely. The first time a unicorn levitated their whole self at me, I nearly bust down the doors of the hotel I was going into. No slur on him, though. He might have been a real sweetie, but 300 pounds of giggling pony coming at your head would have given any pony a fright.
Oh, yeah. So, you get it, right? There was tail available. I never wanted it. Not any of it.
Because you wanted Octavia.
No. Yeah. Yes, because I just wanted Tavi. I guess I never put it into words at the time. But, yeah, because in the back of my mind, Tavi was the only mare I ever... Even after everything that happened between us, even after years of not talking, I only wanted her, not any pony else. And now, with all this...
Vinyl waved a hoof blindly, not needing to look to know where the bed was.
Now I start looking at other mares? I'm an
Vinyl Scratch, you are not an awful pony, and if you call yourself that one more time, I am sure sugar gonna do something to you that's so bad you'll cringe every time you so much as think about it. Vinyl raised her head.
Saph?
Sapphire Shores was not a pony who did angry. She shrugged off bad feelings, laughed in their face, or just plain ignored them until they realized how insignificant they were and slunk away. Vinyl couldn't even remember seeing her mad before, but the expression on her face now was unmistakable. You ain't an awful pony just because you're craving some love and affection. Sweet Celestia, if that were true, half of Equestria would be downright evil. You said you spent 4 years not wanting no pony but your Tavi? Tell me, what exactly were you doing those 4 years? She enunciated her words so sharply that they were like pins being driven into Vinyl's ears.
I was working, she stammered.
And did I or did I not hear you tell me before that you used work to block out how much you were missing Octavia and to stop yourself thinking about all the stuff you didn't want no little itty-bitty part of yourself thinking about?
Yeah, but...
So maybe, just maybe, now you ain't going so hot to trot on your DJing career these days, you're maybe, perhaps, possibly, and even feasibly, just now experiencing some honest-to-goodness emotions that ain't self-hatred and regret? That just maybe, you beaten black and blue little heart is starting to beat red again? Vinyl had no answer to that. She waved her hooves wildly, crisscrossing her forelegs in a gesture of cessation.
Wait! Saph, you're missing the point. I don't want any pony else. I want Tavi. I made a commitment. That's why I'm here, remember?
No, Vinyl, I think you're the one who's missing the point. You never wanted no pony before because you never got past the first stage of grief over your relationship ending. You were still stuck there, like you were stuck every night on those dang treadmills at that dang gym, running but never getting no place. Now you're off the treadmill, girl. You're moving forward, and you're meeting all the emotions you should have met back then. Put it this way. If you could talk to Octavia right now, right this very second, do you think she'd tell you she wanted you to put your heart on hold forever? Do you think it'd make her feel good to know that you decided to dedicate yourself to being alone, accept her the way she is now, and your memories of her? To never, no how, no way, never even consider starting a relationship with some pony else, even if it'd make you happy, just because she can't be with you the way you want her to. The backs of Vinyl's eyes felt hot and itchy.
Why are you saying this stuff?
Wow, her voice sounded weird. All gluey, like she had downed a glass of 100% proof treacle.
After all I've told you, about her, about me, about us, I told you almost everything, Saph, and now you come out with this crap? What kind of friend does that?
Sapphire's face shifted for a fraction of a second, as if Vinyl's question had struck a nerve. I'm saying it because it needs to be said, Sugar Lips. And I'm sorry, but there ain't no pleasant way to bring this up. Not really. You need to think about this. I'm not saying you need to make any decisions. Not now. Maybe not for a few years to come, but... Vinyl, I am your friend. I know how lonely this life can get. I don't like the idea of you totally closing yourself off to even thinking about loving any pony ever again. And I don't think Octavia would either. She cared about you. She wouldn't want you to stick yourself on another treadmill.
You don't even know her!
The words came out more aggressive than Vinyl intended. She started to get to her hooves.
You never met Tavi before she was like this.
No, but you've told me enough about her that I don't think she'd want you to be alone forever on her account.
I love her,
Vinyl thundered, gesturing wildly.
Only her! I don't want any pony else but her. Ever. All this crap you're talking is just that. Crap. And if you don't stop talking crap, that I...
For a long moment, Sapphire just stared at Vinyl. Then she got up, brushed off her skirt, and headed for the door. I think we should end this conversation before one of us says something she regrets.
I don't regret saying I love her.
That ain't what I mean. Vinyl, I know this probably ain't the best time, but it is the time that the subject has come up, and it is the time you gotta think about it. I'm not saying you should go throwing yourself at Willow or any pony else right now. You don't even know if Willow sings that tune. What I'm saying is that you don't gotta consign yourself to a life without any love but the memory of what you and your Tavi had. A pony can't live life in reverse. She's gotta move forward, and sometimes that means thinking about stuff she really don't want to.
Do you think I don't know that?
Vinyl demanded.
I've spent the last few months doing nothing but thinking about stuff I don't friggin' want to. Making decisions I don't friggin' want to, and doing stuff I don't friggin' want to. That's why I'm here!
She stomped her hoof on the floor with every yelled word. Sapphire stopped, took a breath, let it out slowly. And now this is something else to add to that. You've been making some heavy decisions lately about the kind of pony you want to be. She looked at Vinyl without turning her head. Scratch. Vinyl. DJ Pone 3. Tell me, if all this pain you've been putting yourself through, bearing your soul to the media, fighting with Indigo, opening yourself up to all the slurs and insults you've been getting, if all that was to be truer to yourself, like you said, then what's the point in ignoring the truth just because you don't like it? Vinyl stared at her, mouth open but no words coming out. Apparently, having said all she had to say, Sapphire left. Vinyl felt a powerful urge to go after her and pick a fight some more, but she stopped herself. Instead, she returned to the corner and almost sat down again. At the last moment, she hesitated. In a snap decision, she levitated the composition into the air and followed it to her chair by Octavia's bedside. She sat down and laid the music on Octavia's stomach, as if presenting it to her for her approval.
"What do you think, Tavi?" she asked softly. "I worked hard on this, but I still don't have a name for it. It's probably nothing you'd be impressed by, but I kinda like it. Usually I hate everything I write until it's..."
Her voice snagged. She leaned forward, pillowing her head on her forelegs. Throatily she whispered,
"What should I do, Tavi? Tell me what I should do."
No answer. As always. As it always would be? Was this Vinyl's life for always? She didn't resent being by Tavi's side. She had fought tooth and hoof to stay there. She had almost certainly burned her bridges with Indigo to do this, had taken a sabbatical from her DJ career and ostracized sponsors who had previously been so eager to please. She had learned how to care for Octavia, all the ugly things she would have to do to look after a coma patient. She had resigned herself to what she would have to do and decide it was worth it because she loved Octavia. How could she even consider being unfaithful to those feelings now? That brief burst of attraction to Willow had been just an echo of memories with Tavi, nothing more. Definitely nothing more. Definitely. What I am saying is that you don't gotta consign yourself to a life without any love but the memory of what you and Tavi had.
Tavi, are you ever coming back?
A pony can't live life in reverse.
Can you even hear me in there? Or have I really wasted all these months like Indigo said?
She shook her head vehemently.
What am I saying? Idiot! Idiot! Time with you ain't wasted. Not even like this. Not ever. I just wish I'd had the chance to see you when you could still... She trailed off. I hope you can hear me, Tavi. I really do. I love you so much. I was unbelievably stupid to ever let you go. I could say that I was young and naive, but it was mostly just stupidity and selfishness. You were my linchpin, you know? The part of my life that never changed. I thought you'd always be there, no matter what I did. No matter how much I hurt you. But I was wrong. I was so friggin' wrong. About everything. I was so lonely without you. I didn't think I was, but now I have friends. I can see that I...
She stopped and had to center herself before continuing.
I thought I had friends before, but not like this. Having real friends. It's opened my eyes, Tavi. I was lonely. Every friggin' day I was so lonely, and I never even realized it until now. Talk about dumb, huh? I told you I was dumb when we were still in school, but you never believed me. You always...
Her throat tried to close again.
You always had faith in me.
Vinyl stared at the smooth, unruffled face on the pillow. Octavia looked very young. Not quite as young as when she and Vinyl had first met, but certainly younger than when their troubles had gotten the better of them. She had looked haggard back then, though Vinyl had been too caught up in the work to see the physical differences in her lover. Octavia had lost weight. Her cheeks had become hollow, her eyes sunken, in a way that any pony unfamiliar with her would not have noticed, but someone close to her should have. Vinyl had not. Now, by contrast, Octavia's face seemed fuller, her beauty restored by tragedy. The universe had a sick sense of humor. Vinyl reached out a hoof and stroked Octavia's cheek. The fur there was just as soft as it looked. The simple touch reminded Vinyl of so many other times she had been able to reach out and stroke Tavi's face. Her Tavi. Still her Tavi?
She's gotta move forward. I will always love you, Vinyl whispered. I will always be your Vinyl. That won't ever friggin' change. Not ever. I'm always yours. I always was.
She let her face rest in her hooves.
Celestia, damn it. Tavi, what should I do?
Octavia did not answer. As always. Flowerheart intercepted Sapphire on her way out. She had never been one for standing on ceremony, but even she was surprised at how easy she found talking to a celebrity these days. It was all too simple to stop thinking of them as real ponies when you saw their pictures plastered across magazines and billboards all the time. Their problems seemed worlds away from those of regular ponies. Having Vinyl around had taught her that some things were universal. She sensed from Sapphire's expression that this was one of those times.
Hey!
Sapphire looked up from where she had been trying to bore a hole in the elevator doors with her eyes. She broke into a smile, but it was strained at the edges.
Hey!
She sing-donged in that curious way that she sometimes did.
How's it shakin', Smooth Girl?
Flower hesitated.
Smooth Girl? Gonna be Rounded Girl soon. Thought I'd use the name while I still can.
Flower twisted her lips into a wry smile. Talking with Bruiser and planning their new life together had given her the buoyancy she had lacked when first trying to cope with the thought of impending motherhood. She still wasn't entirely sure of herself, but she was certain of one thing. She wanted this foal. She almost laughed when she thought about everything that had led her to this moment and this strange revelation. She, the confirmed singleton, who fiercely guarded her independence, not only had a partner, but was also starting a family. And she didn't hate the idea. Would wonders never cease? She refocused on Sapphire.
What was all that yelling about?
Sapphire's expression folded in on itself.
Oh, that. Yeah, that. What happened in there?
Flower tossed her head towards room 219.
It sounded pretty heated. Nothing.
Sapphire started. Then she stopped herself.
My girl and I, We had to chat about some things she didn't want to chat about. What kind of things?
Sapphire's cagey tone made Flower suspicious. Protectiveness made her hooves tingle with the desire to smack anything that threatened Vinyl's tenuous happiness. Not easy when the major problems in Vinyl's life weren't tangible and therefore weren't smackable. Is she okay?
She's...
Sapphire paused.
She's being Vinyl about the future.
Oh, you mean she's fighting against it with all four hooves and a baseball bat?
You got it.
What exactly is she fighting against this time? Flower chose her words carefully. There was no pony in earshot except Maryheart, but it paid to be circumspect in the hospital. Sapphire seemed to be choosing hers equally carefully, though Flower speculated her reasons were quite different. Sapphire seemed to be getting something out of her friendship with Vinyl that Vinyl herself wasn't aware of. Flower had worked in Manhattan General long enough to see more waiting rooms filled with distraught creatures than she'd like to remember. She had seen weepers, wailers, screamers, those beset by silent shock, and others who got angry at hospital staff, as if it was their fault they were stuck in this place, waiting for news of their loved ones. It didn't matter whether they were ponies, goats, griffins, minotaurs, or some other creature who lived in Equestria. The patterns were always the same. Grief, worry, and loneliness were universal emotions. The creatures who lodged most in her memory, however, were those who pretended everything was fine while their eyes told another story. Sapphire Shores was the biggest personality Flower had ever met, but it was only recently that her eyes had started to shine as much as the rest of her.
I sometimes wonder what it'd be like to love some pony the way Vinyl loves Octavia, Sapphire said evenly, her tone flat and strange. And then sometimes I'm glad I don't know. I sing about love all the time. Not one of them love songs get it right, I reckon. Love is magical and fantastic and perfect, but I ain't never sung no song about how much it can hurt to love some pony with all your being. So much that you'd give up your whole heart, even when they can't love you in return, and then you refuse to take it back again or use it to love some pony else. Like ever.
Flower nodded, beginning to understand.
Moving on after a relationship has hit the skids ain't no big deal, right? Moving on after some pony else decides it ain't working out is harder, but not impossible. I done had plenty of cult friends in my life, and I done cried over a few.
Sapphire smiled wryly.
More than a few. Once I threw a cake at a wall. I'd baked it for him on his birthday, and he dumped me when I was only 2 hooves through the door. Celestia shiny horn, did it make a mess. Real satisfying one. Then I went home and cried on my bed till I could hardly see straight. But I got over him 'cause I realized later he wasn't the one I wanted to give my heart to. Not that way. I missed him, sure, but I didn't mourn for him.
Her neck was a little less arched, her smile a little less bright as she examined the thoughts in her head.
It's hard to watch some pony isolate herself when she done so good at unisolating herself in so many other ways.
Sapphire blinked.
Unisolate is a word, right?
I don't know, Flower said hoarsely. She cleared her throat.
Good as any, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. The elevator finally dinged and opened.
I better go. See you later, smooth girl.
Sapphire twinkled a hoof at Flower before stepping inside.
Do me a favor. Keep an eye on Vinyl. She'll be thinking some hard thoughts right now, and, well, you know how she is.
The door started to close.
All 4 hooves and a baseball. Click.
Flower watched the numbers above the elevator decrease. After a moment, she turned and trotted to the door of room 219. Peering around the edge revealed Vinyl by Octavia's side, sobbing into her folded forelegs. Flower was beside her faster than any unicorn with a teleportation spell. Vinyl resisted at first, but when she realized who it was, she allowed herself to be held.
I don't want any pony but her, she choked out. Never. There'll never be any pony but her.
Flower shushed and held her. She was aware of Mary in the doorway, obviously drawn by the noise and how fast Flower had run inside.
It's not just me being stubborn, Vinyl railed. I love her. Why else would I do all this? I never stopped loving her. How could I ever love any pony else when I still love her so much? It's not fair. Why is this all happening to me? What did I do to deserve all this crap? I don't want to make that kind of decision. I lost her once. I can't just give up on her after I missed her for so long. I can't. I won't. I won't.
Vinyl's words devolved into incoherence, but Flower could guess at least some of what was going on. Sapphire's words, plus this breakdown, added up to a heartbreaking picture. The desire to fix everything and make it all better tightened Flower's hold on Vinyl. Holding her was the only thing she could do at the moment. "You want me to fetch some, pony?" Mary whispered. She had drawn closer, face tight with concern.
I don't want any pony,"
Vinyl mumbled into Flower's chest.
"Just my special some pony. I ain't gonna never lose no pony else. Just my Tavi."
Mary Hart nosed open the door quietly, but Vinyl still heard her. Her head snapped up, causing Mary to halt in her tracks.
I got you some couscous,"
she said around the plastic food tube in her mouth.
"With peppers. Just the way you like it." "Thanks," Vinyl said flatly. "But I'm not very hungry."
Mary removed the tube and held it in one hoof so she could speak more easily.
"You ain't never hungry any time I ask. Darling, one of these days I do declare you're going to waste away the skin and bone."
Vinyl didn't respond. Her eyes seemed... Mary hated to think it, but her eyes seemed haunted, almost the way they had looked when she had first took up her vigil so many weeks ago. Vinyl had made so many improvements since then, becoming a happier, healthier mare, that it was a shock to see such a sudden relapse. Vinyl blinked, her focus somewhat in the middle distance, one hoof laid possessively over Octavia's foreleg.
"Couldn't you just manage a bite? Just one?"
Mary fought to keep her voice normal, instead of letting it drop into a maternal tone she used with her kids.
"I'll go away if you want."
Vinyl grunted.
"Whatever."
Nonetheless, she accepted the tube of couscous and prized off the lid. She used her hooves, not her magic. Mary didn't know whether that was significant. She was an earth pony who had grown up around earth ponies and spent her formative years in a tiny community of earth ponies on the southernmost border of Equestria. Her life before she came to Manhattan had been one distinctly lacking in wings and horns, so it had been a shock when she first got to the big city and saw ponies flying around and levitating things like it was nothing special. When she was in school back in Cattywampus, fillies on the cusp of marehood had told each other how lucky they were that puberty had not struck them with rampant magic outbreaks or wing boners, which had made them all giggle. Mary had giggled too, though she hadn't fully understood what they meant until she rode the subway on her first day at nursing college, and one vivacious Pegasus educated her with his uncomfortable stare and erect wings. As Vinyl forked couscous into her mouth, Mary checked on Octavia. It was both duty and a reason to linger in the room. A pile of paperwork awaited her back at the nurse's station, but Mary had no intention of returning to it until she had said what she had come in here to say. It had taken courage for her to even get this far. She inspected the IV drip, noted readouts from the monitors, and even spent a moment rearranging the unconscious mare's mane. Octavia certainly was a striking pony. Her mane and coat weren't vibrantly colored, yet something about her remained elegant, even like this.
"You don't have to be extra nice to me just because I cried," Vinyl said suddenly.
Mary sighed.
"Darling, that ain't it at all." "So you're feeding me because you feel sorry for me?"
"I'll thank you to quit putting words in my mouth." Mary wasn't as close to Vinyl as Flower had become. Technically, the friendships each of them had developed were more than a little unprofessional, but neither nurse cared much. Nursing was 1/3 professionalism and 2/3 heart. Mary liked to think that was why any pony who wanted to be a nurse had to add heart to the end of her name. Still, she vacillated. Perhaps it would have been easier for Flower to do this. On the other hoof, by the very nature of what she had said, Flower couldn't do this. Stalling, Mary added, "I got enough of my own I need to say without you adding more."
"Huh?"
Vinyl blinked at her like a sleepwalker. Mary gathered her nerve. She rarely talked about this. Not that she couldn't, and certainly whenever Chip or Glow wanted to, she answered their questions willingly, but it wasn't something she brought up very often. Some ponies wore their history like badges of honors. Some hid them away. She was content to simply let it sit and be what it was, where it was, in the past. Still, now seemed an appropriate time. She liked to think he would want her to help some pony in need. Hadn't that been what he had said when she first told him she was a nursing student? "You know I have kids, right?"
Sure, Glow and Chip."
Vinyl said their names with the familiarity of one who has heard all about them without ever actually meeting them. Mary nodded. "They ain't angels, either of 'em. Chip's a moody little pubescent, and Glow's still at that age where she thinks throwing a tantrum is the best way to get what you want when reason fails." She smiled to herself. "Still, I love 'em both, warts and all. I hate taking 'em to the grocery store, and I dread school report day as much as they do, but I'd fight off a rabid manticore if they tried to hurt either one of 'em. So would Blackjack." Vinyl nodded to indicate she remembered her husband's name from past conversations. Mary let out a breath. "Which is extra special, 'cause, you see, Blackjack ain't their daddy." She tightened her stomach against the old scrunch of grief, though it was more of a prickle these days. "He's their stepdaddy. Their daddy, he died when Glow was just a newborn foal. He was sick, and then he died." Quickly, but not so fast that she was unintelligible, she went on. "We met when we first moved to Manhattan. We were both students, scrimping and working our flanks off to graduate college so we could move on to the working world. He was an engineer. When it came to my graduation ceremony, he was so much bigger than every pony else, I could see him all the way from the podium." She smiled at the memory of his frantically waving hoof, horns sparking in delight at other ponies' acknowledgement of her success. "Around a year later, he got a little bit of bump on his fetlock. It itched a bit, so he went to the doctor, who said it was a grass seed that got lodged under his skin. After a while, the itching stopped, and it didn't bother him none, so he forgot about it. 5 years he lived with that tiny little thing, neither of us realizing it weren't no grass seed."
"What was it?"
Vinyl asked, her voice still croaky from crying. "Subcutaneous lymphoma," Mary replied. "Cancer. Some doctors call it iceberg cancer. Tiny bump on the surface, all spread every which way underneath. By the time he started to feel sick, it had gone too far. He held on till he saw Glow, held her for the first time, and then the next day he was gone. He was the love of my life, and all of a sudden he weren't there no more. I blame myself for the longest time. I mean, I'm a nurse. I should have been able to tell that things weren't right, but I didn't. In retrospect, even if I had realized, there weren't nothing no pony could do." She gave a humorless laugh. "Not that any pony could have convinced me otherwise at the time." "Mary, I know it ain't the same, Vinyl, but I wanted you to know something." Understanding dawned in Vinyl's eyes. "Mary, stop." Mary plowed on regardless. "I told myself I'd never love no pony else. Why would I want to? All I wanted was my foal's daddy. I loved him so much I felt sick when I lost him. If I couldn't have him, well, I didn't want no pony at all. No pony could measure up to him, no pony could replace him, no pony could ever make me feel like he did. What kind of wife would I be if I allowed myself to replace him in my heart?" She raised her eyes, making sure she locked gazes with Vinyl, as if she could somehow force the lessons learned from her own experiences into the other mare's brain. Being told something wasn't the same as living it, but she had to at least try. "I was wrong." Vinyl tore her gaze away. Mary kept staring, but she felt like a piece of frayed cloth whipping helplessly in invisible wind. "Vinyl—" "Mary, I understand why you just told me that, but—" Vinyl trailed off. "I don't want to cheapen what you went through, or what you're trying to do by sharing this with me, but I'm afraid that if I say anything right now, I'm going to do just that." She closed her eyes, pinching the spot between them. It was a posture of utter exhaustion. "Maybe... Sweet Celestia, I feel like a heel for saying this, especially since... But
would you mind leaving?
Sure thing, darling, Mary said gently. She had been on this job too long to get offended at a request. But before I go, I want to say one more thing.
What?
Vinyl's voice held an edge of desperation, as if she wasn't sure she could handle one more thing. I still miss him with all my heart and soul. Loving Blackjack never changed nor lessened that, and it didn't make what we had any less. At first, I thought it made me a bad pony and a terrible wife. How much could my love for him have meant if I could love some pony else? But, you see, that ain't how it works. What me and Blackjack have, it's different, but it ain't no better nor worse. Just different. She paused before saying the crux of what she wanted Vinyl to know. You shouldn't let tragedy define who you are, darling. It ain't wrong to move on. It ain't wrong to let yourself be happy again, even if that means being happy with some pony else.
Vinyl's whole body convulsed, just once, like a violent hiccup. She didn't speak. In fact, her jaw seemed clenched shut. Mary took this as her cue to depart. She didn't know whether she had done any good. You couldn't teach some things. They had to be lived, experienced first hoof, and these experiences had to translate into a pony's own decisions. Still, she had felt like she had to try. She wanted Vinyl to know that there was life beyond the bad times, that she was living proof of that. Regardless, Mary's heart did its own convulsion when she heard the strangled whisper Vinyl clearly did not want her to hear. It's not the same. Tavi ain't dead. To be continued.